So students, we just completed learning the road transport. You should learn what is road transport, why is it important, and compared to other transport, what is the advantage of road transport. Also students, we learnt various types of road transport. We learnt who is building, who is maintaining. We also learnt what are the places that are connected by those respective roads. Now we will learn about railways. It's very simple students. For mass, when many people want to travel from one place to another, railways is a suitable medium, and even to transport goods from one place to another, railways is a very good option. Railways are the other important mode of land transport. They are useful to carry heavy goods and large number of passengers over a long distance. They play a pivotal role in agriculture, industry and the economy of India. They also help to expand tourism. In India, the railways were constructed by the British, and it was a very convenient and easy way to send raw materials from one place to another. It also helped the British to move army from one place to another. Students, from examination point of view, for 1 mark, it's almost asked most of the years, where was the first railway line connecting from which place to which place. So the first railway line was laid between Bombay and Thane in 1853, followed by Kolkata to Raniganj in 1854, Chennai to Arakkonam in 1864, and then they developed to other parts of the country. Railways forms the largest part of the public sector undertaking. Indian Railways is purely owned by the government. Like how in buses, there are private buses, there are government buses. In cars, there are government owned cars. You can also buy a car. But have you heard of anyone saying, oh, I bought a train today? That doesn't happen. The entire railways is owned by the government. So it's the largest public sector undertaking. It gives employment to a very large number of people. We have a network of about 7,031 stations and a length of 64,015 kilometers. The railways are divided into 16 zones like north, south, southeast, northwest, and so on. For efficient management, many steps are taken to provide comfortable and safe railway travel. Pipelines. What are pipelines, students? Now let's say you want to transport crude oil from one place to another. Putting it in tanks, trucking it, sending it from one place to another, it's very risky. So they have made pipelines that go from one country to another, one state to another. They are a new mode of land transport. They are laid under the earth's surface. They are used to transport crude oil from oil fields to refineries, natural gas and mineral slurry. The total length of pipelines in India is 35,676 kilometers. Students, so we just completed all kinds of land transport. We began with roads, then we went to railways, and we even studied about pipelines. Students, from pipeline transport, the most important question would be what is transported using pipeline transport and the extent of it in India. Now let's look at water transport. Water transport in India is the most advanced. Okay, it was one of the most advanced seafaring countries in the past. But what all does it provide? It provides navigation, like you can go from one place to another through boats, through ships, and so on. Waterways can be divided into two types, inland and ocean. What is inland, students? Any idea? Let's break the word in, land. In means inside, inside the land. If we are a country, what is the meaning of inside? Inside means within the country. Assuming you're going in a boat along the river of Ganga, it is inland waterway. But if you're going from India to Singapore, you're going from one country to another country, that is called ocean waterways. You're going outside. So that is ocean waterways. Inland waterways, now we will study in detail. Rivers, lakes, backwaters, canals, these are inland waterways. They are inside the land of India. At one time, inland waterways played a very important role in the transportation of India, but today their importance has been replaced by railways and roadways. In Indian waterways, they are mainly carried goods and people along the river of Ganga, the Brahmaputra and their tributaries. The South Indian rivers are navigable only where there are deltas, because in other parts of South Indian rivers there is not much water to support navigation. Now let's look at ocean waterways. Water transport through sea and oceans form ocean waterways. Students, for 2 marks from examination point of view, learn difference between inland and ocean waterways. So for 1 mark you all can write the definition, and for another 1 mark you can write examples. India has a long coastline. Imagine we are a peninsula, students. We have 2 seas on either side, and in the south we have an ocean. So we have a very long coastline. India is located at the center of the eastern hemisphere, which I have explained to you in the chapter number 1 of geography. Nearly 85% of the foreign trade is seaborne. Whatever foreign trade we do, exports we do, is mainly sent via seas. All of these factors favor for ocean transport. Now we will look at ports. What is the meaning of port, students? Like how railways, the trains, we go to a place to board a train, to get down from a train. That place is called station. When the same is done for ships, that place is called a port. It is like a station of ships. They are the meeting point between land and sea routes, where ships are docked. Dock means parked for loading and unloading. There are many ports in India. How are we grouping them? They are grouped as major ports, meaning they are very, very big and they can handle a lot of capacity. Then we have intermediate and minor ports. Major port facilitates for large ships. So if there is a very large ship, it will go to a major port. They have a sheltered harbor and they have modern facilities for handling cargo. There are 14 ports in India, students, 6 on the west coast, 7 on the east coast and 1 in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Now, students, with your maps, open your maps or look at the map given in your textbook. In the map questions, every year almost they ask for a port. So it is very, very important for you to know the location in the map. Important ports of the west coast are as follows. Kandla. Where does Kandla come? It is located at the head of Gulf of Kutch in Gujarat. The second one in the west coast is Mumbai. Students, if you just look at the west coast and you come down in a hierarchy from top to bottom. So we have Kandla, then we have Mumbai. Mumbai is important because it's the biggest and the most spacious and well sheltered port. It is also called the gateway of India. Next we have the Jawaharlal Nehru port. So students, in the Mumbai port there was so much of congestion since there were so many cargoes and ships coming. So to support or to reduce the pressure on the Mumbai port, the Jawaharlal Nehru port was made. It is also known as the Nhava Sheva port. It's located near Elephanta Caves, just 10 kilometers from Mumbai. It's built for the release of the pressure on the Mumbai port. Now we have Mamu Goa. It is situated at the entrance of Zuari River estuary in Goa. So we learnt about Jawaharlal Nehru port, the Mumbai port and the Mamu Goa port, and before that we learnt about the Kandla port. Now next we have the new Mangalore port. It is known as the gateway of Karnataka. Very, very important. Which port is known as the gateway of Karnataka? It is situated at Panambur to the north of Mangalore. Then we have Kochi. It is located in the coast of Kerala. It is called the Queen of the Arabian Sea. Now students, we finished all ports on the west coast. We had Kandla, Mumbai, Jawaharlal Nehru Port, and then we had Mangalore, we had Kochi, we had Marmugao as well. Now we are coming to the east coast. We have Tuticorin in Tamil Nadu. For west coast we came from top to bottom. For east coast we are going to go from bottom to top. Tuticorin, it is situated to the southeast part of Tamil Nadu. Then we have Chennai, it is located in Tamil Nadu and is the oldest port. It has an artificial harbour. Ennore, here very close to Chennai, it has been developed to reduce the pressure on Chennai port. It is located to the north of Chennai. Then we have Visakhapatnam, it is the deepest landlocked and protected port. It is located on the coast of Andhra Pradesh. Paradeep, it is located in Mahanadi Delta in Odisha. And then we have Haldia, it is situated on the confluence. Confluence means the meeting point of river Hooghly and Haldi. It receives the largest ships which cannot enter the Kolkata port. And lastly, we have the Kolkata port. It's a riverine port located on the left bank of the river Hooghly. It's the second biggest port in India and largest terminal port in Southeast Asia. It suffers from the problem of silting because it's made by the river. Rivers bring in a lot of soil, so it faces the problem of silting. Next we have Port Blair. It is situated in the Andaman Nicobar Island, which is one of the Union territories of India. I hope you all will practice all the ports using the map of India along with plotting and knowing. You should know the special names the two ports had. Okay students, now let's go to air transport. It is the quickest means of transport. If you want to go somewhere very fast, you use air transport. It is very efficient to carry passengers and to carry a mail. On times of emergencies like war, flood, earthquake, air transport is very useful. India is a vast country and it has all the factors that help for the development of air transport. There are two separate corporations for operational purpose. They are Air India International, which provides services between India and various other countries, and we have Indian Airlines, which operates within the country and connects the neighboring countries. Until recently students, air transport was in the public sector just like the railways, but now it is open for the private sector. There are so many private airlines like Jet Airways, Sahara Airlines and so on. Airports, there are 141 airports in India, of which 28 are designated as international airports. What is the meaning of international airports? Here, planes and flights that go from India to other countries of the world are allowed. 88 domestic airports, here only you can go from one place in India to another place in India. You can't leave the country from these ports or enter the country from another country in these airports. And 25 civil enclaves at defense airfields. The Airport Authority of India manages these airports for one mark. It's a very important question. Some important international airports have been given along with their names. You all can learn just 3 to 4 of them. Indira Gandhi International Airport, it's in New Delhi. Chhatrapati Shivaji Airport, it's in Mumbai. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose International Airport, it's in Kolkata. Anna International Airport, it's in Chennai. Kempe Gowda International Airport, it's in Bengaluru. Rajiv Gandhi International Airport in Hyderabad. Shri Guru Ramdas Ji International Airport in Amritsar. Lokpriya Gobinath Bardoli International Airport in Guwahati. Biju Patnaik International Airport at Bhubaneswar. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport at Ahmedabad. Veer Savarkar International Airport at Port Blair. Dr. Dada Saheb Ambedkar International Airport in Nagpur, Zarruki International Airport in Shillong, Lal Bahadur Shastri International Airport at Varanasi. These are some of the important international airports of India.